Don't forget to subscribe, guys, for the latest in boxing. You know, Anthony Joshua is really my generation's Lennox Lewis. He's really my generation's Lennox Lewis because, you know, I didn't get to watch Lennox Lewis, fight live, when he was active back in the, 90s / early 2000s. Because, right now, Anthony Joshua is the Lennox Lewis of modern times, right? Lennox Lewis was what Anthony Joshua is back in the late 90s, early 2000s, right? When it came to the heavyweight division, he was the best and the #1 British heavyweight. Just like Anthony Joshua currently is the best and #1 British heavyweight. He was also the #1 heavyweight. Just like Anthony Joshua is currently the #1 heavyweight. Now, I never got to see Joshua live because I started watching boxing in the year 2005 when I was in middle school, and at that point Lennox Lewis had already retired, so I never got to actually watch him live. But of course, me being a hardcore boxing fan, when I first started watching boxing, I used to look up all the past fights, and I looked up I saw every Mike Tyson fight, every single one of them, literally just by watching them on TV and on YouTube. I watched all his fights. I would say, the majority of Evander Holyfield fights. I watched several Larry Holm fights, Ali fights, even fighters from the 1930s and 40s, like Joe Louis fights, Jack Dempsey fights. But one of the guys that I watched was Lennox Lewis, and I remember becoming a fan of Lennox Lewis, right? Because I remember seeing the documentaries of when Riddick Bowe ducked him, and when he fought Evander Holyfield. I remember I saw it was this documentary where they say that he got robbed against Evander Holyfield in the first fight when they fought to unify, and then they got an immediate rematch, and they felt that they robbed Lennox Lewis because Evander Holyfield was American, and I believe the fight took place I'm pretty sure it took place in the United States, but I saw a documentary where they were saying that they felt that it was because he was an American, so they gave him a gift decision basically. But then in the rematch, he basically beat Holyfield and became unified at heavyweight. I saw when I remember when he destroyed Andrew Galata, in one round. I saw when he got I didn't see it live, but I saw it because there's a difference watching a fighter fight live or watching past tapes, because I think it's I enjoy watching live rather than watching a fight that took place that I didn't see live. Basically, I saw him when he fought Razor Ruddock when he was a young heavyweight, and he destroyed Razor Ruddock. I saw the fight when he fought Frank Bruno, and he beat Frank Bruno. I saw the Tommy Morrison fight. I saw the fight what he had with Ray Mercer. I thought that was a good fight. That was a good inside fight. It was that was one of those fights where you saw, because to me it looked like Lennox Lewis had the ability to change his style. When he fought Ray Mercer, that was a very smothering type of fight. Ray Mercer was in his face the whole fight, and that fight, they were all roughed up. They were fighting in the pocket the whole fight. But when he fought David Tua, he basically played. He fought the boxer type of fight. He didn't engage David Tua. he was just simply outboxing him. But it makes sense because one of the past fighters I also saw from the 90s was when I was like looking up all my, back when I was like 18, looking up all my history, past fights, was David Tua. And David Tua was considered a big puncher. And so I guess that's why he fought him like that. I saw when he fought Michael Grant, when Michael Grant was, people were saying he was going to be the next great American heavyweight. But Lennox Lewis just completely ruined that. And really ruined his career, because after that, Michael Grant he went downhill, after losing to Lennox Lewis, after he got KO'd in 2 rounds. He just went downhill. Of course, I saw when he got knocked out against Hasim Rahman. It was a fight he was winning, and he got knocked out in, I believe the fight took place in Africa. And then in the rematch, he knocked him out cold. And one of my favorite fights of Lennox Lewis was when he fought Vitaly Klitschko. I think that was a great victory for him. I think it was a great victory for him because of I think it was his best victory, to be honest with you. I think his victory over Vitaly Klitschko was probably his best victory in his entire career because of what happened to Vitaly Klitschko's career after that. When he fought Vitaly Klitschko, that was his final fight. And at that point, he was like almost 39. That was his final fight. He was at the end of his career. And at that time, Vitaly Klitschko was a young heavyweight. So that was a fight between an aging, past. Well, I'm not gonna say he was past his prime, but he was definitely not as fast as he was when he was in his prime. Like, this was it was a fight between an aging Lennox Lewis and a young Vitaly Klitschko. And that fight was, a back and forth. It was a very competitive fight. Of course, it ended up being stopped because Vitaly Klitschko had a really bad cut. And I saw a documentary where Vitaly Klitschko, and a lot of his fans were like claiming that Vitaly Klitschko would have won had the referee had he not get that cut. Those are one of those fights where you never know, right? Like, that's like the biggest debate of Vitaly Klitschko versus Lennox Lewis was what would have happened if Vitaly Klitschko would have never received that cut. The fight would have never stopped, and maybe it would have been a different outcome. Maybe Vitaly Klitschko would have dethroned Lennox Lewis and be heavyweight champion of the world. At least that's what Klitschko's team always felt. But again, it's one of those type of things that we'll never know because they never fought again, right? But what was impressive with that win when it came to Lennox Lewis was the fact that he was, at the end of his career, he was fighting a prime Vitaly Klitschko, and Vitaly Klitschko went on to never lose a fight. That's what was impressive, right? After that, Vitaly Klitschko did not lose a fight for the next 9 years until his retirement. I know, like, he kind of like quit boxing for like a few years, and then he came back, like, I think in 2007 or something. Because I saw, like, after he lost to Lennox Lewis, he fought, I believe his name is Kirk Johnson or something, Danny Williams, after Danny Williams beat Mike Tyson. And then for some reason he like took a 3-year, he just retired for 3 years, but then he came back and he went on like a 5-year undefeated streak. So he in total he basically did not lose ever again. He went on to become a very dominant champion at heavyweight. He was the WBC heavyweight champion, and nobody could beat Vitaly Klitschko. Not only that, nobody could give Vitaly Klitschko a competitive fight. Lennox Lewis gave Vitaly Klitschko his last competitive fight, because after that, every other guy that Vitaly Klitschko fought, Klitschko dominated him and just schooled him and basically embarrassed him. That's what's impressive, is the fact that an aging, a over-the-hill Lennox Lewis and out-of-shape Lennox Lewis was able to be in such a highly competitive fight with a young Vitaly Klitschko, yet Vitaly Klitschko, yet other young heavyweights who were in their prime, they couldn't do what Lennox Lewis did. So that, guys like Sam Peters, Derek Chisora, Artem Leo Chris Arreola, and several other heavyweights that he had fought. They couldn't do what Lennox Lewis did, and they were in their primes, as opposed to Lennox Lewis was past his prime. But it just goes to show you how good Lennox Lewis was. So this is why, get back to the topic of, Anthony Joshua's my generation's, Lennox Lewis's. It's nice to be able to see, these fighters live. Like right now, I'm able to see Anthony Joshua right now live when he's in his prime. Right? I'm pretty sure 10, 20 years from now, people who are boxing fans at, 10 years from now or whatever, are going to just be saying how, like what I'm saying about Lennox Lewis, how they just looked up his fights, but they never got to see him live. So it's cool to see, the number one heavyweight, while he's in his prime right now, and just like Lennox Lewis, fighting all these guys that are, because I have a big feeling, years from now, when you look back in Joshua's career, you're going to be like, look at the guys he fought. Look at what happened to their careers. Look at how they went on to do this, do that. Because Joseph Parker, I think, could still become a champion. Dillian Whyte, I think right now, one of Joshua's best wins is like against Dillian Whyte and Vladimir Klitschko. But I think that Dillian Whyte is an impressive victory just because how Dillian Whyte has, look at how good Dillian Whyte has become, right? Like right now, I said it in the past, and I'll say it again, Dillian Whyte could be a champion right now. And the only reason he's not a champion is because Anthony Joshua is the champion. But if Anthony Joshua was not a champion, and like say Wilder wasn't around, because Wilder's dodging Dillian Whyte, but like say Joshua was not around, Wilder wasn't around, right now Dillian Whyte would be a champion. And the only reason he's not is because he's not as good as Anthony Joshua. So that's why I think Dillian Whyte is actually one of Anthony Joshua's best wins, because he fought him when he was a novice, right? I believe he had like 14 fights. And look at how good Dillian Whyte has gone on to be, Dillian Whyte is quality. He's a quality fighter. So that shows me, it tells me how good Joshua is. And the fact that he was able to beat Klitschko with just 19 fights also tells me and shows me how good Joshua is as a fighter. So who knows, Deontay Wilder might be Anthony Joshua's Riddick Bowe. Riddick Bowe was supposed to fight Lennox Lewis. He never did, though. Maybe Deontay Wilder is going to do the same thing. Anyway, guys, that's all I have to say. Thanks for watching. And subscribe for more videos, guys.